All right, welcome everyone to the show. We're having some issues tonight. Blog Talk is having some issues with their audio files, so that means that I am sitting here crossing my fingers and hoping that we're actually on the show. I am Billy Willard. I'm your host, Sasquatch Watch Radio, and before we get started, let me make sure that my co-host can hear me. Are you there, Bruce?
I can hear you loud and clear, Billy.
Okay, I actually had to call into the studio with my telephone today because the audio systems aren't working again. Does that surprise you?
It does not surprise me, Billy.
No, it doesn't surprise me either. So anyway, I apologize if my audio doesn't sound as good as it usually does, but then again, maybe it makes my accent sound better or something. I don't know. We can only hope.
Well, Billy, that one week you weren't even on the show, so I think this is a huge improvement.
Yeah, a week before last, I couldn't get on at all. Well, I was on for like a minute. So anyway, just to remind everyone, sponsor of our show is Audible.com, but in no way is Audible.com responsible for our mess ups here at the studio. They do much better than that. Matter of fact, they'll give you over 185,000 different titles to choose from when it comes to audiobooks. So being a listener to the show, you can go to audibletrial.com/Sasquatch Watch Radio. And by doing so, it gives you access to a free audiobook and also gives you a 30-day trial of the service. That way you can check it out. That way you're not going in blind and you give it a trial run. So give it a try, folks. It's audibletrial.com/Sasquatch Watch Radio. Check them out, and I think you'll enjoy it. So Bruce, I think a lot of folks, including you and I, most of the time we enjoy our Topic Tuesdays, and we have a pretty interesting topic tonight. Did you get a chance to read over the description that I put up for the show tonight?
Yes, it did, Billy.
What do you think? Is that kind of what we're looking at? I mean, what I did was I tried to put a lot of questions that you may hear from a skeptic. We get a lot of claims of folks who claim that they have normal visits by these creatures that we call Bigfoot. So, for the skeptical folks, we hear a lot of them that say, well, if you're seeing these things on a regular basis, why aren't you providing us with photos? Do we just, and then when you really stop and think about it, and then you're like, well, if you're not going to share some evidence or you're not going to share photos, then what's your purpose for mentioning it in the first place? Are we supposed to just take your word for it that you're seeing these things? Or, what are you going to offer the fact that you bring it out on social media and stuff like that, where you say, oh, yeah, I'm getting what is it that you're trying to get at? Who's benefiting, basically? Is that pretty much what we're talking about?
Well, Billy, I think there are a lot of unanswered questions when it comes to habituation. Some famous habituation cases are the Carter farm, right?
Right.
There's
right.
That, this family habituated a Bigfoot, and by habituate, we mean that they basically had some sort of relationship with these creatures that would cause these creatures to visit them on occasion. And when I say relationship, I don't mean in a weird sort of, inquirer sort of relationship, but they befriended these creatures or seemed to have an understanding with them. And for some reason, these creatures would come back and they would ask for things like garlic or pancakes or whatever. So
right.
And we have those sorts of claims. Now, even on the show, we had Connie, what was it, Connie Gwinnett?
Yep.
And, she had some claims of habituation herself. And, one of the claims was that, these creatures would come to her house and ask for pancakes, or, they would visit her when she moved miles away, and, they would move her four-wheelers on the property around, or, there's lots of claims. But so the question, of course, the big question is this really happening?
Right.
But I think the question that we're trying to explore tonight is why? If we assume that these people are telling the truth and are relating these events, and if we assume that they are in fact habituating a Bigfoot, why? Why would a Bigfoot come around to the property and, and in some cases of habituation, Billy, the Bigfoot themselves they may not be friendly. So is the reason they show up on the property because they're trying to scare people off, what they think is their territory? Or are they trying to make contact with people? I don't know.
Right. Well, there's a lot, again, those are all valid questions that, we got a lot of questions, but we don't have a lot of answers. So, I was kind of hoping that maybe someone would see this show, and, anyone who is having frequent visits by these creatures or believe that they're having visits by these creatures on a regular basis, feel free to call in. We're not going to bite. Not going to insult you or anything like that. We just want to know, what is your goal? If you're having these repeated visits, for example, if you're leaving gifts and these things are gifting back, we've heard that also, Bruce, many occasions. What is the purpose? What do you think the Bigfoot's purpose is, and what do you think your purpose is, and what is it that you're trying to, to prove, if anything? The call-in number is area code 347-237-5070. And when you call in, if you want to speak with us, just press the 1 key, and it'll put a symbol across our studio so that we know that you want to talk to us on the show. So again, if you've called in on that line, 347-237-5070, be sure to hit the 1 key, and that will tell us that you want to come on the show. We'd love to have someone who has frequent visits by these creatures to answer some of those questions, because, there's, what's that old saying, Bruce, about, I think it was Bill Munns that's got this great definition of skepticism?
It's a process, not a position.
Right. So I know that a lot of folks are, hard on skeptics, but skepticism can be healthy, and so we have to have a healthy balance there, especially if you're, coming on social media and you're trying to say, hey, I had this, this visit today, and a lot of times we see, photos that people take in the woods, and it's maybe a shadow or something that you can't make out. So, for those of us who are quote unquote skeptical, that's that's not enough for us. We have to see something that's, now if somebody presents us with a film footage or a photo that's right out in your face, now that's a whole different story, right, Bruce?
Yeah.
Man, of course, that's the grand goal. I mean, for everyone, I would think. But but it is an interesting topic, and the other side of the spectrum in this, though, is the part that bothers me. And let's face it, we have a lot of folks out there who don't mean well. A lot of folks who may put this information out and actually put it out there just to create an argument, or put information out there and claims just because they're trying to bring attention on themselves. That's the unhealthy part. But we want to talk to folks that that really truly believe that they have a situation where they're having continual visits by Bigfoot, and just explain to us, what you think the benefit is there of both you or the creature. Why does that creature let you see them, and that kind of thing, but anyone else can't see it? That's what I'm interested in, because Bruce, you and I both have been to a lot of places. We've been several places in Virginia. We've been places in West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania. I mean, we've been in a lot of places.
Pacific Northwest.
Yep, Pacific Northwest, Washington State. I mean, and we hear all the stories, but neither you or I have been the lucky ones to have a sighting or anything. So, help a brother out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Billy, before we get too far into the show, I did want to let people know that we received word that Melinda Hogan Thomas, who was a Creature Weekend volunteer and good friend of ours, passed away last night. She finally succumbed to her illness, and we were deeply saddened to hear the news. She was a good friend, a person you could count on, and she loved Squatching, and she loved her Bigfoot friends. And very heavy-hearted tonight, just thinking about it. But I just wanted to say that she will be missed.
Yeah, she made a lot of friends in the Bigfoot field. A lot of folks, really admired her because she was always ready to help. It didn't matter. Even when she was sick and not feeling well, she was ready to help. You remember that, Bruce? I mean,
I remember that, Billy.
It was unbelievable, the dedication that she had to lend a helping hand, even though she was suffering from an illness that most people it just puts them down. And so I mean, I was always impressed with that. And she made a lot of friends. I've seen a lot of people on social media today that were talking about stories, and even saw a lot of folks who mentioned that that they were just happy that they actually crossed paths with her and got to know her. I mean, she left an impression on a lot of people, and that's just good people. And she will be missed. We didn't get to see her this past year, Creature Weekend, which was sad because we knew she wasn't going to be able to make it, because I know she's been battling quite a bit, and so
she was very courageous.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So it's but we know she's at peace now, and that that in itself should bring us some comfort that she's not suffering anymore. And
I do know, Billy, that towards the end she was very she was suffering from a lot of discomfort, and she was just sort of suffering a lot from her illness, and she had several surgeries, and I'm just glad that she's no longer suffering.
Yep, me too. It's just it's sad that
we are having our Creature Weekend camp out at the end of this month, June 24th through the 28th. And for those of us who will be gathering, we'll be having a small memorial service for Melinda. And it's nothing more than just a bunch of her friends getting together to share a story or say a few words on her behalf. And that'll be on Saturday night. So we encourage any of her colleagues or friends who are in the area or who will be joining us for the camp out to stop by. And I'll post the details of the memorial service on the Creature Weekend website at www.creatureweekend.com. And I talked to her husband, and he's going to try and make it to that event.
Great. That'll be great. Yeah, anyone who can make it to that, it would mean a lot, especially if her husband makes it. I'm sure it'll mean a lot to him to see all the friends that she had accumulated over the years. She was a very, very good lady, and she touched a lot of people. I've seen a lot of people responding to that today. So, and I know it definitely wasn't good news for me to get up to this morning. So, but
well, Billy, none of us ever has as much time as we think we do.
No. Yeah, that's very true, Bruce. Here lately, I've been telling a lot of people that life is short. Don't enjoy life. Don't if you're doing something or getting involved in something that just brings you sadness, depression, anger, just stop doing it. I mean, honestly, you gotta stay positive and just live life to the full. Enjoy, and that's the great thing about Bigfoot research. I mean, how great is it to just go out somewhere in the woods, in the wilderness, or whatever, and just spend some time in the woods? I mean, even if you're just sitting there on a log and just enjoying the sounds of nature and stuff like that. I mean, we take that stuff for granted probably a lot, but especially if you got friends with you, just enjoy the time, And I think that's one thing we've always done, because we get out there and we get to laughing and joking around. I mean, it's just a good time.
It is a good time, and
you got to live life to the full.
I still think back on some of those zany things that happened during conferences and during our Bigfoot outings. Really, they still make me laugh after all these years. And
oh yeah,
I think you're right. You have to really just enjoy life as much as possible.
Yep, exactly. Just a reminder, folks, I do see that there's quite a few folks on the switchboard line. Just a reminder, if you're listening, if you do want to speak to us, don't forget to press the 1 key on your phone, and that'll let us know that you want to come on the show and speak. Just a reminder, if you're in there to listen, that's fine. Don't worry, we won't bring you on unexpectedly. But if you do want to speak to us, don't forget to press the 1 key. Anyway, okay, I think we've covered the sad part good. If I keep thinking about that, it bothers me, if you know what I mean.
So, Billy, I think when we look back at some of our past interviews with people who had claims of Bigfoot habituation, we've heard a lot of different things. And to you, I mean, what do you think is the most plausible reason that any creature would make themselves known or try to visit these people on their property? Is it A, to scare them away or to warn them off, or B, is it curiosity, or is it C, something other?
Well, me personally, if I were to take a guess at these alleged visits, I would think that I mean, let's face it, most of the people who are making these claims are typically in a home that's not new. It's a home that's been there a while. So you really would, in my opinion, I wouldn't think that it's happening to scare you off. But more, in my opinion, is that they would be curious as to what exactly you're doing. You know, maybe watch your activities if you're out there doing something, you know, washing a car, you're doing something around the house. You know, I would think that they would kind of keep a distance and just kind of, you know, we're probably entertaining to them. You know what I mean? Especially you, Bruce. I mean, you've got to be entertaining to a Bigfoot.
I don't know about that.
I mean, you know, of course. Well, I guess Bigfoot doesn't hang out in steakhouses, but anyway.
No, but you know what? When I'm grilling those ribeyes, Billy, I'm sure that probably brings some creatures out of the woods. You know what I mean?
Well, no. In my opinion, I steer towards more of a curiosity factor. I just don't hear enough stories that relate anything to a violent behavior, with the exception of people that talk about them coming up and beating on the side of the house or something like that. But again, is that really an aggressive behavior? Or is that more of a they want to wake you up and so they can watch you for some more entertainment? You know, like turning on the TV remote.
Yeah.
So. Now, you know, I could see where anger could be an issue or aggressiveness could be an issue if, you know, you've done something to, you know, taking a shot at them or, you know, or something crazy like that. But I think for the most part, from most of the witness accounts we hear about it, it almost sounds like they're observing, not necessarily doing anything that would indicate any kind of aggressive behavior. So that's my thoughts. What about you? What do you think?
I think it's one thing that if you're hiking out in the woods and then you come upon an area where, you know, these creatures purportedly think it's their territory and they want to scare you off. I think it's quite another to live somewhere on a piece of property, and then, you know, they try to scare you off that property. I don't know. It seems to me, Billy, that there'd be more evidence, but we never can get the evidence for that.
No, never. And that, you know, I think we got a caller on the line. I think that's our friendly folks over there from Indiana. Is this Carol?
Yep, this is Bob and Carol.
Yep, Bob and Carol.
Bob.
How y'all doing?
Oh, pretty good. I needed to ask you guys a question. The other day, Carol and I were over here in a big town of Terre Haute, Indiana, at a restaurant. We had our Sasquatch shirts on, and some college girls, I think, is about their age. And to me, I'm not sure if they really meant this, but they've been watching the Bigfoot shows and listening. They actually asked us the question, why are these things bipenal? And I just know it's bipedal. I just, you know. So, Bruce, how would you answer something like that?
Well, Bob, I would say, you know, to the best of my knowledge, these creatures are bipedal. If they're bipenal, I would like to see the evidence that you're looking at that would suggest that. So,
yeah, the intelligence of the colleges nowadays, I guess. But, yeah, we just kind of looked at one another and just, you know, corrected them and everything. But I said, my gosh. So,
well, you know, Bob, you did your good deed. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, we try. You know, here's your sign. You know, I need to start taking them with me, kind of like the old thing. Here's your sign. But how's everybody doing?
We're doing okay. How are you doing out there in Indiana?
Oh, doing good.
You know, Bob,
watch out for the...
I rode my motorcycle. One year I rode my motorcycle out to the West Coast. One of my first stops was this place, Terre Haute, Indiana. And when I got there, it was probably like 98 degrees out. And
Yep.
I nicknamed it Terre Haute, Indiana, because I was just getting fried out there. And is it always warm out there? You know, in the summertime,
Oh, yeah, it's
it was
down.
mega hot.
Yeah, it's down like along the Wabash, but the problem there too, whoever the engineering genius, you know, the west side of town has the sewage treatment plant, the creosote plant, and I can't remember the other one, and so the wind, you know, come off of Illinois that way, and it just makes that whole town smell. It just, you know, it's the college town and everything, and farmers around there, but yeah, it's always hot through there, so you have to take
Bruce,
off on your bike again.
Bruce, you don't reckon that smell's caused by Larry Batson's zoo up there, do you?
Anything's possible, Billy. Anything's possible.
We'll eventually get him calling in here.
Yeah, he's a few miles east. I've never found out if Larry's got any venomous ducks either, man. You know, 'cause that's the worry here in Indiana always. But I have to see if he's got any. So,
I don't know about
we'll get off.
ducks, but
Yeah.
Larry. If you ever meet Larry, the first thing he wants to do is wrap a 12-foot python around your neck. He gets off on that for some reason.
Yeah,
Just around you, I think, Bruce.
Yeah, because he's never tried that because I hadn't got that thing. No way. Not put a snake or a tarantula on me. Yeah, and he'd have to feed that to one of his lions when I was done with it. No, not putting a snake on me. I had a teacher one time at junior high. I was taking a test, and she thought it was funny. She put the damn tarantula on my left arm. Yeah, that thing didn't make it back into the aquarium that day, so... No, snake spiders, just, you know, I'm not afraid of them, but just don't go putting them on me, so. Well, you guys have a good night, and take care.
All right, thanks for calling in, Bob.
Yeah, thanks for calling in. Yeah, we're good friends up there in Indiana.
Oh, yeah, it's Larry
Bipedal, that's a good one.
Oh man, I tell you something else. Again, we're gonna put the word out there, folks. If there's anyone I tell you what, if there's anyone out there that's having frequent visits by these creatures, please give us a call. We want to talk to you on the show. Not going to bite. 347-237-5070. If you've already called in, don't forget to hit the 1 key on your phone. Or if there's anyone out there that just wants to talk about this. I mean, you've heard Bruce and I, you've heard what our thoughts are, you know, about this subject. So if you have an opinion about the subject, call in. 347-237-5070. Press the 1 key, and we'll know you want to come on the show. I've always found it to be an interesting subject, so I would think that people would want to talk about it personally. I mean, we see the stuff all over Facebook. You know, folks that claim that they take pictures of them and everything. There's a ton of pictures out there.
That's the problem. The problem is that you would think, right? You would think that if you were able to habituate a creature, that it would be easier to get a photograph of them or some sort of evidence, or it was easier to get maybe a cast of a footprint or a hair sample or something. But we never seem to have any evidence that can stand up to scrutiny about these habituation situations. So it makes you wonder, you know, is the witness truthful?
Right.
Or, you know, what's going on here?
Yeah. You know, and it's not you know, and I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea. It's not like, you know, it's not like that, you know, we're not saying we don't believe you, you know, if you're having frequent visits and that kind of thing, because we know very well it's very possible, you know. It's just that no one really comes forward, you know. I mean, it's one thing to say it and say that you're having it, but it's a whole nother thing to say, here's my proof. I mean, honestly, I'm telling you the truth. Here you go. You know, that would, it's a little hard to argue with some good, you know, some good photographic evidence where you can actually see something in the photo, you know, something other than a shadow. I mean, I look at those all day, but I don't know, Bruce.
Shadow all day, Billy?
Well, you know, I'm talking about the pictures that people put up of proof of Bigfoot, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it'd be nice for a change to have something that I can actually see.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't want to picture your mother-in-law or something like that, you know. So it's, I know they look like Bigfoot, but you know.
Billy. Let's wait for the heat mail to roll in on that comment. Usually it's me that they target.
Well, you hear people say it all the time, so I figured, what the heck. But anyway. Let's see. We got, you know, we have a lot of folks that not only talk about having frequent visits, but we've talked about this before on past shows, where, you know, folks are finding all types of physical evidence in the woods as well. We had a couple folks from the God, I can't speak today. The Adirondacks on last week, who you know, provided some photos of, you know, handprints on the back of their vehicle, some photos of, you know, they sent us the link of his Facebook page so that people can go and see some of the photos he had. You know, it's good to have some physical evidence to show. But obviously, as we all know, you know, again, it would be really nice to get a nice photographic piece of evidence of an actual creature. And that's something that I think we're all waiting on, and probably all been waiting on for a long time. We've got another caller on the line. Caller from the 330 area code. You're on the air.
Hello, Billy and Bruce.
Hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, good. I just wanted to talk. Well, it was nice you brought up Melinda Thomas, and we all were going to miss her. She was a great lady.
Yeah.
Is this Tim?
Wait.
Is this Tim?
This is Tim. Yeah.
Okay,
hey,
Tim. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great to have you on the show. And you know, Tim is one of the volunteers for Creature Weekend, who keeps us organized there at the registration table.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why it was a mess this year. Okay. See, one of the people that had the table there was this Frank Bennett.
Yep.
Interesting fellow and all that. He came out with a book, Encounter with the Aberdeen Wild Man, and I read that book and this fellow was quite a researcher that went, he not only had Encounter, but he did a lot of researching on all these people, and some of these were people that saw Bigfoot a lot. Now, his premise on a lot of the cases were the Bigfoots where they were not shining a light. Like in the woods, they would see them and their eyes would be glowing red, but they weren't shining a light. And he surmised that no animal could do that. That he surmised that these were demons and that's why those people were getting these encounters and that. I don't know what you think about that, but this book goes into a lot of cases there. I think Billy's wife bought a copy too. What do you think about that? I think that's a
so Frank is
possibility.
actually interesting. Frank is actually an interesting gentleman, and in his book he does one of his theories is he does say in his book that one of his theories is that these creatures are demonic, and I would my feeling is that these creatures are flesh and blood, and I'm not saying anything's out of the realm of possibility because we don't have a body yet, but Tim, my gut feeling says that these creatures are flesh and blood and they live in this dimension, although people like Fred Saluga might argue with me on that. What do you think, Billy?
Well, you know me, I'm probably more open-minded than you are, Bruce. I've heard that theory from several other people other than that book, and as you know, we've had two acquaintances that have sort of went in that direction with that belief. So there's probably more people out there that believe that is possible than what we really think. And one of the explanations that I hear a lot from one gentleman that I talked to was that would be a good explanation as to why you can follow these footprints in the snow and they just disappear in thin air. It's just you follow a set of tracks and boom, they just stop. It's one of their, saying that that could be an explanation. Again, Bruce, I've always been on the fence on stuff because I'm not ready to say one thing over the other. I would like this thing to be flesh and blood, for sure. Something that's undiscovered. But I'm willing to accept anything that the evidence leads us to. So that's my answer.
Billy, we live in a world that's dictated by certain laws of physics, and I'm not saying that we know everything about the world we live in, and certainly we're just really touching on some of the things that maybe 10 years ago would have seemed impossible. But I can't. It's hard for me to accept that. Okay, so these creatures are demonic, and that's that. I think it's like any other theory. I think it's plausible, and like you said, there's a reason. It offers a reason why these things are hard to photograph or track, as you said. I've not seen any evidence besides this supposition that would lead me to believe that. So in other words, we're just making guesses at why we think they're demonic, but we don't really know for sure.
Right. No, and I agree.
The case that he could come up with would point to a demonic there, but the ones like you mentioned there, where they're disappearing and the eyes are glowing with no light being shined on them, things like that. Some of those cases could be. So it could be, I don't know, 50-50 deal. I don't know. But it was an interesting book there. And
Tim, let me ask you something, okay?
I looked at 1,000 cases, yeah.
So you see some red eyes glowing in the dark. You don't shine a flashlight on it. How do you know what you're looking at is a Sasquatch? How do you know it isn't some other type of creature, demonic or not demonic? So
Well, I'm assuming I'm not a scientist to tell you if eyes can glow light without an outside light, a light source or not. His summation was they couldn't. And then some of these would be, he had some cases where they were jumping in the trees, 400-pound things just jumping over the branches, and he thought physically impossible. So kind of like what you were talking about, some of these, that type thing.
Yeah, actually, Tim, it's interesting that you mentioned that. Some years ago, we had a Marine that came on the show and claimed that he saw exactly what you were just describing, talking about they saw these creatures way up in the trees, moving from tree to tree. Right. You start thinking about something that's that large and that heavy, you would think that'd be just about nearly impossible. But they saw it on their thermal imaging devices that were on their weapons. So again, there's another account of someone claiming they've seen them up in the trees like that.
But again, Billy, there are a lot of questions there.
Yeah.
They may have, as you know, when you look at thermal imaging, there are no distinct details.
Right. Well, it depends on how close they were to them too. I mean, I don't know. I can't recall how close they claimed that they were. So I would have to listen to the show again. But I mean, it was really interesting. I mean, because the guy would, he would only give his first name. I know where the base is. It was at Fort A.P. Hill.
He didn't want to lose his job.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he said that he didn't want his commanding officer to hear. So, that's understandable.
Yeah.
So.
Oh well.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Be there and see what you thought about it, and I kind of enjoyed Frank's some of his research. He's kind of got a wacky sense of humor too. But,
no, Frank Bennett's he's a great guy. He's pretty well read, and he's a really fun guy to hang out with.
Okay. I'm going to get off here. You guys have a good show, and we'll be talking to you soon. All right?
All right. Thanks for calling in, Tim.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah, that was great. I'm glad Tim called in. That was great. But it's really funny, some of the stories that we hear, and that's, again, I've heard that story from couple acquaintances that you and I know, as well as I just remembered that Marine story after hearing Tim talk about that, and some interesting stuff out there. We have another caller from the 614 area code. You're on the air.
Hi, Billy. Hi, Bruce. This is Treba and Terry.
Hey, Treba.
Just want to say we're really going to miss Melinda. We met her about 5 years ago. She sat with us at one of the big meetings and been friends from then on.
Yeah, it's really sad. It really is. She was a friend to a lot of people.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, she will definitely be missed, no doubt. But did you have a question about the habituation, Treba?
On the what? The topic?
The Bigfoot habituation?
People see an eye shine. We have. And from the distance between the eyes, the creature, I believe they're seeing what they say they see.
So you think they're demonic?
It's a possibility.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like I say, I think there's more people that really do think that than what we really know. I mean, I've seen a lot of hardcore researchers that have stopped researching because they feel that they found their answer and that was all they needed to know and got out. So
when you can't even prove they exist, it's hard to tell what they are. You know,
yeah.
You can throw around all you want. But
yeah, like kind of like what Bruce said earlier. We got to have a body. If it's flesh and blood, we're going to have a body.
If it's not flesh and blood, then what?
Yeah, exactly. We're never going to have a body. Unless it's our own.
Well, when you hear a credible witness, and I believe they were, Stan Gordon told the story that one of the things went up in a flash of light when it was shot with a shotgun. And what do you do with that stuff? They're all liars.
Right.
The Indians were all liars. It's in their lore, you know.
Right.
What's in their lore, Terry?
The things, calling them shapeshifters and stuff. You call them what you want.
So they did, you know, there's some Native American oral traditions that talk about shapeshifters, but they don't necessarily mean that those shapeshifters are Sasquatch.
I'm not here to convince you.
Well, I'm just, you know, Terry, I'm just saying that.
Enough, and I don't need to convince anybody.
I'm just saying that some of those stories do not refer to a Sasquatch. They're talking about something entirely different.
Okay, and what? Let me know what those are.
Well, so they're talking about the skinwalkers or the shapeshifters, but those are different than the Sasquatch that we're talking about.
You believe they were their shamans?
Do I believe what?
You believe they were their shamans or high priests and they turned into something?
Well, whether I believe that or not, my point is, I think that's not what we're talking about here. I think those entities are different than the Sasquatch. Because if you read some of the stories about Sasquatch, specifically in the Pacific Northwest, they talk about these creatures as if they're real flesh and blood creatures.
Yeah, it's so hard to, you know, again, we're dealing with so many different mysteries out in the world. I mean, we really don't know what all type. You know, it might be all different, you know, all completely unrelated to one another. See, we've got so many unanswered questions, which is probably why we're all still out there looking.
We have a lot of unanswered questions, and we're really just grasping at straws to figure out, you know, an answer to those questions.
Right.
And one of the things, you know, we're saying now that these creatures may be demonic, or other people are saying they travel through portals or are interdimensional. That may very well be. All I'm saying is that I've not come across any evidence that would strongly suggest that would be the case.
But then again, I have to agree with Terry. How do you collect evidence if that is the case? How do you collect evidence on something that's of a higher consciousness? And when I say that, I'm not saying, of course, that they're superior. Let's face it, if it's a demon, obviously they have power beyond what we're capable of doing. So how do you collect evidence on something that's obviously more superior in nature than you?
Well, Billy, so let's say it is a demon, okay? It has to interact with us in this physical world that we live in. And we know that that's true. Why? Because people have claimed to have casts made from footprints. People have hair samples, or allegedly have hair samples. And I know that Nova Ketchum study, they collected over 100 purportedly hair samples. And so we know that these creatures interact with us physically. So we collect evidence the same way we would collect evidence on any creature that interacts with us in a physical world.
Yeah.
Hair samples, tracks, photographs, videos. So I think it's the way we should approach this is not to say, well, if they're really demonic or if they're really interdimensional, there's no way to collect evidence. I think we should approach it as, that may be a possibility, but they do leave behind evidence of their interaction in the physical world. Footprints, hair samples.
Been there and done that.
Sorry, Terry?
I've been there and done that.
Well, Terry, I've known researchers who have spent 40 years, and they told me, hey, I've spent 40 years looking for this creature. I've not come across one track that I found myself. All the tracks that came across were people who said, hey, I found a track. And they never had one sighting. And so, you could very well go through a couple lifetimes of not having any sightings or any interaction.
Is one of them. I understand what you're saying, but why are they attracted to somebody else?
Who knows? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's something simpler than that, Terry. Maybe it's just if you're in the right place at the right time. You have an interaction.
More questions. I'm not here to convince you. That's what I told you.
And I understand. All I have are questions, Terry. They're just questions, and I'm not trying to.
Every time I come up with what I think is an answer, I get one.
Well, look,
it drives you goofy, man.
Yeah. But here's the thing: if you have evidence or if you have an explanation, it's going to be scrutinized. And so I'm only asking you the questions that any other person would ask you.
Yeah, we're all seeking answers. And who knows, maybe none of us will ever get the answers.
Seen what we've seen, and we're still looking for answers.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
People tell me, I just want to see one. Well, you think you just drop it and go home and watch a ball game after that?
Nope. There's so many researchers that are still researching because of the sighting.
Ask Guinness. He'll tell you.
Yep, I know.
Some people that are ate up.
Yep. Cause you to spend a lot of money and.
Yeah. Oh, we're had our nickels worth. We'll let it go to somebody else.
All right, Terry, Treva, thanks for calling in. We appreciate it.
Take care.
Yeah, thanks for calling in, Terry.
We'll see you at camp out.
All right.
Good job, or Bill, if you're listening to us. I love you, Bill.
All righty. Well, folks, we got about 5 minutes left of the show. If anyone does want to call in, we've only got about 4 minutes left. Again, the number is 347-237-5070. Don't forget to press the 1 key. But I would say that we've probably pretty much exhausted this show tonight, Bruce. I mean, we had some great discussions. I'm glad that some folks called in and we got to talk about some different theories. That was great.
Yeah, Billy, when we came up with this topic, I wasn't really expecting to find an answer. But
No.
I think we just wanted to explore it a little bit.
Right. And I was kind of hoping that we'd have someone possibly that's out there somewhere listening and would call in, someone that's had visits or claiming to have visits. It would have been nice, but that's okay. I think we still had a lively discussion on the topic and the different theories. So,
Now, and Billy, just let me say this, okay? So those people who have had an interaction, whether it be vocalizations or sighting, they're coming from a totally different place that I'm coming from. As a person who hasn't had a sighting, maybe has heard of vocalization, but I don't know if what I heard was a Sasquatch. I know it was very odd, and I'll never know. So
right.
I like to say, my position is this: show me the evidence that you have, and let me examine it, and let me ask you some questions about it. And that's all.
Right.
I'm just evaluating evidence, and if the evidence, shows that these creatures do exist, then so be it. But if it doesn't, then I'm fine with that too.
Right. Yep.
So
yep.
I know I'm skeptical, and the reason why people bring me along on their outings because they do balance out sort of the believers. But I just like to think that what I'm doing is just asking logical questions.
Right. Yeah, it's all. We just want answers. I mean, it's really what it boils down to. We're all looking for answers. And hopefully we'll get it sometime within our lifetime. And I'm sure there's been other researchers who have, long gone left us and probably thought the same thing. But, who knows? Many times, we have so many things that we hear about. We think that we're on the verge of a discovery, and then the next thing you know, it's almost like we're starting over. So, who knows? Will it be in our lifetime? Who knows? But I think that's what keeps us going, that mystery. We keep trying to reach for it, and we keep trying to find the answers. And if we all know that we learn stuff every single day. So hopefully one of these days, that'll be one thing that we all learn. So.
Well, Billy, and also I think we can't be, I think we can't be afraid to ask some hard questions.
Right. I agree with that. I know that some people will get offended by questions, but you can't let the questions offend you, because it's simply, it's not that we're trying to insult anyone. We want to learn. We want to know if you have the answer, because we don't.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way I look at it. But you're right. Sometimes when you do ask the hard, skeptical questions, people are offended because they feel that you're, maybe you're calling them a liar or whatever. But that's not the case. Not the case at all. I know that when I ask questions, a probing question, or ask someone if they have evidence of something, it's in no way is that me saying that I don't trust what you're saying. What I'm saying is if we present this as evidence, we have to be able to have some kind of hard evidence to present it as so. Just especially if we want the field of science to look into it. As we all know, they're very critical of that kind of information. So, but
do you remember when we had I think his name's Henry Franzoni?
Yes.
So when Franzoni was on the show, he talked about an experience he had where he was in a vehicle and the starter engine died on the vehicle after he had his encounter.
Right.
And so it was his understanding or his belief that these creatures somehow zapped the starter engine on his car. So I asked him point blank, and I said, is it possible that your encounter and the starter motor malfunctioning on your vehicle were two separate incidences that just happened to happen, in close proximity to each other time-wise? And to my astonishment and amazement, he actually said, "Yeah, it's possible." You know, so
Yeah.
I think that if you're willing to be intellectually honest about your evidence or your belief, whichever it may be, I think that that's a good start.
Right. Right.
You know.
Yep, I agree. All right, Bruce, do you got any other announcements or anything you want to make before we end this show that I think we've babbled on about?
No, Billy. Just want to remind people that the Creature Weekend Summer Camp Out's coming up. If you are interested in joining us, keep an eye out on the website, www.creatureweekend.com, and there's a tab for the summer camp out, and I will post details there. And also, we will be having that memorial service for Melinda. I hope folks can join us for that. It'll be nice to celebrate her life as we knew her. And that's pretty much it, Billy.
All right. Well, next week, folks, next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have a guest on from the West Coast who is very familiar with some of the Native Americans, the tribes and things there. And she's going to share some very, very interesting information about her knowledge in this interesting mystery. So that should be very interesting. I always love to have those from the Native American background on to tell us, their beliefs. So it should be an interesting show next week. And so we hope y'all can tune in with us next week, next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Hopefully our studio will be back up and running so that I can't even end the show tonight with the closing audio because none of the audio files are working. So unfortunately, we will just have to end the show by saying good night, everyone. We'll see you next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Good night.
Good night, everybody.